Welcome to the Doom Kitchen. This is not a news show. It's a talk show. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. We are not responsible for the actions of our listeners. You are responsible for you. If anything offends you, we were only joking. Promise.
Welcome to the Doom Kitchen. As promised, Phytophiliac has returned. And today she's going to tell us some about the healthcare industry and how to keep you out of trouble. But just for the people that might not know Phytophiliac and haven't heard her music yet, I'm going to let Phyto tell everybody who she is.
Thanks again for having me.
You're always welcome.
It's been kind of a hit and miss this last couple of weeks, trying to get everything nailed down. But yeah, thanks for having me again. The music that I do is mostly techno, electronic in nature. Doesn't have lyrics. I've done one song that I made that does have lyrics, that does have words. It was more of an experiment just to see if I could do it. But for the most part, most of my music does not have words. It's something that you can just play in the background while you're cleaning or hanging out with friends or whatever. All available on SoundCloud and the major streaming platforms. I took all of my music off of Bandcamp for a couple of different reasons. But and I did kind of shoot myself in the foot doing that money-wise. But I'm mostly doing this for the music. I'm not doing it to make money. I mean, it was my hope to at least break even and keep it going. I still will be making more music in the future, but I'm taking a break for now to focus on some new projects. They're very, very exciting projects. Couple of them, one of them I hope I can discuss tonight, and another one I'm going to kind of keep it a little close to the chest for a little while longer until I work out some details. But yeah, so music is on SoundCloud. Check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, if you want to throw anything else out there at the end of the show, just as a reminder, call to action, etc., we'll get that at the end. But let's begin on this. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about the healthcare industry and there being ways to keep your friends, family members, and self out of trouble, to where you just kind of get railroaded and disaster usually ensues, or at least has ensued before, and no one has choice. And so start explaining that.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna back up just a little bit for people who don't know. I am a nurse. I have been a nurse for 15 years. Started in 2008 when I got my certification, my licensure through the state of Texas Board of Nursing. And I've worked in many different healthcare settings. I've worked in dialysis. I've worked in home health, pediatric home health. I've worked in nursing homes. I've worked in hospitals. So I kind of got a bit of a broad range of experience with the different aspects of healthcare. And one of my favorites was always working in the hospital. I don't know what it was about the hospital. I guess maybe the different things going on from day to day. It was never the same thing all the time. It was there was a routine to it, but there was also a change. It was enough of a change during the day that you didn't feel like it was the exact same grind over and over and over. And one of the things that always stuck out to me was that when we had patients in the hospital, some families handled it really well, and other families did not handle it really well, especially for the patients that were dying or were not doing so well. And you could always see the family dynamics really show up, when family members don't get along. The added stress of a sick family member, plus not being prepared, just really amplifies that anxiety and that stress that patients and their families go through when they're in the hospital. And I always wondered why some families were more or less better equipped to handle hospitalization than others. And so I started just really watching the different families, and some of it is some families are most families are dysfunctional. I'm just going to say that most families have a hard time getting along. It's more the norm than the exception. But some of them actually basically had their ducks in a row. And what I mean by that is there are things that you can paperwork that you can actually get and obtain and have legalized documents to help you. And one of the things was the families that struggled were the ones that did not have a designated advocate for the patient. There was multiple family members arguing over what treatment they wanted, and they could never come to an agreement. And it was like they never actually thought about what the plan of action was until they actually were in the hospital room, which is actually the worst possible time to, have a family meeting about what you want as far as your healthcare goes. And so one of the biggest things that I advocate for is have someone that you trust that will represent you and your wishes. And it doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a very close friend. It could be someone. It could be a neighbor. It just has to be someone that you trust is going to carry on the wishes that you have expressed to them. And it is important that you talk to them about this and tell them, like, well, no, I don't want a feeding tube. I don't want to be intubated. I don't want to be on a vent. Or I do. I want every possible measure taken. And some people do. Some people want every possible medical procedure done if it was going to save their life. Some people do. Some people don't. And so it's very important that you figure out for yourself what you would want done, and then also letting your family know, hey, if I was ever in the hospital, yeah, I would like a feeding tube, especially if there's a chance that it could be taken out, because feeding tubes can be reversed. They can be taken out and removed, and they don't have to be permanent. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So it's just very important that people communicate to their family members what they want. And this can be a really good communication exercise for families anyway, just, having that open line of communication among the family members. Yeah.
DNRs are really common. That's probably the most.
That is one of the most common documents that a person can have in their folder, in their file, their personal file. And so the DNRs are really easy to obtain. There is I did a quick search. Each state has one a DNR form that is available, and it's specific to your state. So, like for someone who lives in Texas, you would have a different form with some slightly different wording, like in Kansas or Missouri. So there's a website you can go to. It's called eforms.com, and I've sent you the link so you can attach it to your show notes so people can go there if they want. And it's
magically they're already there. I did
it. Amazing. So this website has a list of all of the. Actually, it has quite a few, and I'm not being paid to promote this website. It was one of the first things that came up when I did a search. It has all kinds of documents. It has a DNR, and I'll explain what that is exactly. It has durable power of attorney, which is also very, very important. And it's also got advanced directives. So they have them organized by state. So you just go to whatever state you're in, and it'll pull up the forms that are available for legalization in your state. And this is these are documents that are going to they're going to authenticate your authority. They're going to verify your authority to make these medical decisions. And so if someone in the hospital, the doctor or a nurse does something that you don't wish to have done, you have legal grounds to take action if it comes to that. And so I'm going to start with a DNR. A DNR is a do not resuscitate order. It is a document that tells the hospital and the hospital staff, the medical team, that you do not want to be resuscitated, which means if your heart stops or if you stop breathing, they are not to perform CPR. They are not to intubate you. They are not to take any kind of other measures beyond just keep, well, they could do, yeah, just to bring you back to breathing and heartbeat. So there's also one called a DNI, or do not intubate, and it will allow them to do CPR on you to get you back to breathing and get your heart rate back. But if you require intubation, that means they stick a tube down your throat and help you breathe and breathe for you. Basically, that's not going to happen with a DNI. But a DNR is you don't do any CPR at all. And this document can be signed by 2 witnesses, I believe, and the physician, and then it has to be notarized. And so you can take it to someone who is a notary public to do that. You can also have those signed while you're in the hospital, even though it does say out of hospital DNR. They do have them available. Excuse me. And if you could sign one day and then decide the next day, oh no, I do want everything done. You can tell them that you want to revoke that. And
early on,
yeah,
in the COVID crisis, they were jamming breathing tubes down anybody's throat that tested positive.
Well, and the hospital policy, I think most every hospital policy is, if you don't know, then if you don't actually have the documentation right in front of you, if you don't have it available, then the rule is they're going to do everything. Right, even if you had a signed DNR at home, if you didn't bring it with you and you don't have it with you in the hospital, for all they know, you don't have it. If they don't see it, it doesn't exist. And so they're going to do everything. So if you are passionate about your wishes being honored and followed to the letter, it is important that you keep those documents with you, especially if you're like, now, I know some people they go because it's an emergency or they were unconscious when the EMS picked them up, and so they weren't able to have that particular wish made known to the medical professionals. And that's where a lot of this whole My ID thing was coming from, is like if a patient is unconscious, this RFID chip they could scan with their little machine, and everything relevant to the patient would pop up. It would be their medical history, their medications, any legal documents like DNRs and power of attorney documents. All that stuff can be associated to that chip. And
right,
yes, it is a good thing to have.
Right.
But the means by which they're implementing it is very, very shady.
Right. It's so Big Brother. And
it is.
Whenever we're thinking about it, we're talking about medical ID, digital ID, things like that, and having those records tied to your driver's license and et cetera. It can work out in a positive way, and that's one of the reasons that they can sell this on us. But at the same time, it's a little spooky,
It really is. And I mean, the potential for abuse is rampant. It's everywhere. And so carrying your papers around with you all the time, everywhere you go, it can be a bit of a hassle. I'm not going to lie. It can be a hassle. So if you have a physician, it's best to have that information available with your physician. And because then your physician can get that information to the hospital if they know you're in the hospital. Your family member can call them, your doctor's office, and say, hey, she's in the hospital. Can you send all of her stuff over to the hospital? And they'll send it, and they can exchange medical records that way. So there's still a lot of, whenever you have human beings working in any situation, you're going to have that human element that messes up. There's going to be errors. The goal is to mitigate that and diminish the errors as much as possible through training and proper training, not just saying, we showed them how to do it, but really getting people to know the ins and outs and how to do stuff. And just what we've seen, just what I've seen in the last 3 years with COVID. I mean, it's been a nightmare as far as medical records go. Medical records are completely screwed up, and
it was bad beforehand. And
it was.
yeah,
and I honestly didn't think it could get worse, but it actually did. It actually got worse. It's a lot worse than it used to be. In fact, we have a patient that we admitted to the nursing home. We were on vacation last week, and she admitted while we were on vacation. And we saw her today, and we were going through her records, and her meds are all screwed up. All of her meds are messed up. The hospital never verified her medications. They never reconciled her medications. And she's on there. They have her taking medications that she's not supposed to be taking. And it's crazy. It's really bad. And that she's by far from the first that we've seen like that. I mean, it's every single time we get a new patient to the nursing home, their meds, I mean, we have to go through their meds with a fine-tooth comb, because we're like, well, and then we have the patient and their family members contact their pharmacy to get a most current medication list, just so we can know what's even their normal medicine. So it's what is supposed to be a smooth, streamlined transition from hospital to nursing home is like it's an all day affair, just because we're trying to track down information from this person and that person. And yes, with all the technology that we have, you'd think it would be a lot smoother than that. But, people forget to send information, or they forget to do this or that, or they don't want to do this or that. And so it doesn't get done. So it really is up to the patient to stand up for themselves, to have an advocate that will stand for them if they are unable to, and really make sure that everybody is on the same page and how to make that happen. That is of utmost importance. My hope is that people actually leave the healthcare system and take care of themselves and are able to treat themselves. But I know realistically that's never going to happen for a good significant portion of this country, this population, this world, because people have become so dependent on the healthcare system. I know there are some people that would literally die without it. I have people in my family who would literally die if they did not have access to the healthcare system as it is now, even as broken as it is, even as messed up and corrupt as it is. They would die.
Well,
and so
it's kind of one of those things that the more you participate in it, the more dependent on it you become, right?
And yes, in a way, yes. Especially with like what I've seen is and it's really unfortunate, because I see it happening and there's really nothing I can do to stop it or change it. And they just keep people just healthy enough so that they keep coming back. And then any little thing kind of sets them off, and they'll go into respiratory failure, or they'll be in a blood pressure crisis, or they'll have their seizures kick off again and they're not controlled. And it's just, they're just barely kept stable, and then they end up back in the hospital again. And, it's really complicated, really, really complicated. And it's that way on purpose. And so if you are able to take charge of your healthcare, if you are able to manage your own issues and educate yourself, you're better for it if you don't have to rely on that healthcare system 100%. Then you don't even need the health insurance, because you already know how to treat the problem that you're having. And so another thing that I would highly recommend is everybody learn how to do CPR. Everyone should learn how to do that. Because even if you're out in the community and, you see somebody at a restaurant choking, learn how to do the Heimlich maneuver. Learn how to do CPR if somebody stops breathing, because you just might actually save someone's life. Another thing, first aid. Learn how to treat cuts and bruises and scrapes. Learn how to treat a broken arm or leg, how to splint. Learn how to handle common minor emergencies. And then you would not have to actually go to the ER. You will actually know what to do, and you won't be panicked in those emergency situations. You'll know just what to do. And that is really a lot of the reason that people end up in the ERs because they don't know what to do. They're at their wits'
Isn't
end.
the first instruction in all the first aid stuff, the first instruction is usually stay calm, right?
Absolutely. Yep, sure is. Because panicking doesn't help anyone. It creates another obstacle for someone to receive care. If you've got someone just sitting there running around screaming like their head's on fire. So safety in everything, and being prepared. If you're prepared, you're like, okay, well, it's not that bad. We can fix this. We can get to a stable point from here, and I know how to do it. And so definitely
Right.
learning first aid and CPR. And I think every single parent should know how to do CPR, at least on a kid. If you have a child, you should know how to do CPR. You should know how to get, like, if they chew on something, get it stuck in their throat, you should know how to get that out of there, or do CPR on them to keep them breathing. There was on Media Monarchy one morning, Jeff was talking about how there was a little league game and a kid collapsed and nobody at the park knew how to do CPR, which kind of blew my mind. It's like the coach didn't even know how to do CPR, which I was like, it's a really low bar for being a youth baseball coach if they don't even know how to do CPR. It's like, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane to me. So yeah, educating yourself and preparing yourself for stuff like that, and not dwelling on, how bad everything is, but knowing a bad situation could happen. I want to be prepared and know how to do that. So, also, because we talked about DNRs and DNIs, medical power of attorney and power of attorney forms. These are the power of attorney forms are documents that basically give you complete authority over another person. And you can have financial power of attorney, you can have medical power of attorney. And these are very important because if someone is unable to make a decision for themselves, this power of attorney is the person who's going to be making those decisions. And if a hospital gives a treatment that the power of attorney has said absolutely not, then the hospital can be held liable for assault and battery, because the power of attorney has spoken and said they don't want this. And so it's one of the most important documents that people can get, and the forms are available online for free. There's any number of videos that can show you how to fill it out. I think even eForms website will show you how to fill it out. They'll give you a step-by-step instruction. This document absolutely has to be notarized, and it has to be signed by, I think, 2 witnesses. It's on the back page, and this form, it's a couple of pages long. I think it's 3 or 4 pages long, and it's just basically delegating authority to make decisions on behalf of a person to another individual. And there's a criteria for the people that can sign it. It cannot be someone related to you. The witnesses have to be, they have to be objective parties. They can't be a part of the situation at all. And so it's not required. If you have someone that you have designated as an advocate, there's no special form for that, as long as you let the hospital know and the patient is able to let the hospital or the facility know, this is the person that I want to be making my decisions for me. And they'll note that in the chart, and that'll be something they go to. And a lot of hospitals now, they got to the point where people were calling about a patient and trying to get an update on the status of a patient. And they had nothing to do with the patient. They were just, sticking their nose in business that didn't belong to them. And so they have, the HIPAA, the Health Insurance and Patient Portability Act. It's the one that Bill Clinton got put in because somebody had released information about him to the media when he was in the hospital. That's where that came from. He didn't care about it until he didn't care about it until it happened to him, And so
and they only cared about it until about 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then they're asking everybody, well, are you vaccinated? It's like, that's none of your business. Absolutely none of your business. Um, so the HIPAA violations are taken very, very seriously. And if you even whisper a
Or
hint, if you even whisper a hint of a HIPAA violation at a hospital to an administrator, they start getting palpitations. They start sweating. They're like, "Oh my god, HIPAA violation! Oh my god!" Because the fines are massive. They're really really big. Um, if the offending person, the person who commits the HIPAA violation, is not it's an immediate termination. Actually, at most places, if they're not terminated, then the facility, the hospital, whatever, can face like, I mean, like tens of thousands of dollars worth of fines every single day until it's resolved. And I mean, it's a big deal. And it's one good way to get their attention. If you think that your patient's information or your information has gotten out and it wasn't supposed to, um, that's a really good inroad there to the hospital. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that you should look for ways to get these hospitals in trouble, but the problem is sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in the hospitals.
right,
A lot of times the
right.
departments don't communicate with each other. And so like my sister, when her husband was in the hospital, they she called up there one day and they were like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah. This is all that's going on with him." And then she called back the next day, and they're like, "Well, what's the code?" She's like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Well, the code. You set up a code when he was admitted to the hospital, and this is the code. You have to give this code in order to receive information about him." She goes, "I'm his wife." She's like, "Yes, I know, but that's our policy." And she's like, "Well, y'all didn't have any problem telling me yesterday what was going on with him over the phone." And they're like, "Wait a minute." And so they called their manager and she talked to like the nursing manager, and then she ended up talking like to an administrator about what was going on. And I mean, they were on it, and they were like, "Oh crap, we messed up." And because the person that she originally talked to the day before was supposed to ask for the code, and they didn't. And so it wasn't a HIPAA violation because she was on the medical record as being his wife and was his responsible party and that sort of thing. But it was like it could have been really bad. And they picked up on that. And they're acutely aware of the HIPAA violation possibilities. And so I mean, even at the doctor's office where I work, we've had to let people go because of, I mean, it wasn't even really, some of it was bad, but I mean, just a housekeeper just looking at the computer screen. She's not supposed to be looking at the computer screen. It has nothing to do with her. She's not even supposed to be, having anything to do with the patient records. Her job is housekeeping. And so she happened to catch some information on a patient that she wasn't supposed to know about. And then she ran off and told everybody that this patient was pregnant. And nobody was supposed to know about that. And so when our office found out about it, they had to terminate her immediately. She was no longer an employee. And I mean, they take it serious. And it's weird because some people get in trouble for it and some people don't. It's really, really weird. I haven't ever actually found out why some people get a more lenient punishment than others. But for the most part, they're pretty heavy-handed with their punishments when it comes to HIPAA violations. So definitely,
So
even 15 years in, I was beaten over the head with it when I first started. And 15 years in, I'm still terrified that someone is going to see health information that they're not supposed to because I was lazy or I didn't think about, somebody being able to see that information. And I'm very particular. I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, I know so and so got admitted to the hospital. Can you look and see what's going on with them?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. Yes, I have access to it, but I can't give you that information. You're not anything to do with that patient. You're not their family. You're not their responsible party. You have nothing to do with them. I cannot access someone's medical records to satisfy your curiosity." And
here's a
so,
funny one,
go
funny
ahead.
story. whenever I was a teenager, I think I was 18, and I worked at a video store, and a ladder had fallen on the sink in the back room, and it caused an edge that on the sink, and I slid past it, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm walking into the store, somebody needs me for something. I'm walking into the store, and I feel something wet on my pant. I didn't even know what it was, and I just see that my butt is bleeding.
Yeah.
It's my butt
Ouch.
cheek. It's not, yeah, you know.
But still,
So my
ow.
butt cheek's bleeding. Start freaking out, and call up my boss, call up some managers, the manager and whatever, and get some family to take me to the hospital. And my cousin was friends with a nurse, so all the nurses came in to see and laugh at my butt crack. Was great.
That's mean.
My extra butt crack, one that was made by. I still have a really cool scar from that. No one will ever see, but you know, there's that. Oh,
My
by the way,
go ahead.
real quick, Recycle Bin Laden and his wife are watching right now, and they say hi. And I'm hoping to field some questions. So I'm really hoping that more people tune into the stream so that they can ask you questions on things like this, because this is stuff that I'm pretty ignorant about anyway. So you're the expert, and I'm sure that some people have better questions than I do, because I tend to stay away from hospitals. I do my very best to stay away from them.
My policy, as far as the injury goes, my policy is make sure the person is okay and they're stable, and as long as they're okay, then I can make fun of them. But if they're having a bad time of it, I'm not going to make fun of the patient. I usually wait to make sure everybody's okay and everything's going to be good, and then I might start poking fun at you. So I wait. And as for this, the commonality of this information, it really even 15 years later, it surprises me how many people are still unaware of the power that they have, the authority that they have. They think they just have to do what they're told. And that's not the case. As long as you're looking at this information and you're educating yourself and you understand the processes that are happening to the patient or to you, you know, and you're thinking about, well, do I really want to try to tolerate these side effects or not? You know, I am very much anti-pharmaceutical, but if somebody wants to use pharmaceuticals to manage their condition, I am not going to tell them not to. I'm going to say, know what you're putting in your body. At least understand the mechanism, how this medication works, how it's distributed in your body. What are the side effects of this medication? What do you need to be looking out for? And so that's my thing with people. If you want to go get, Norco for your pain, you need to know how it's working in your body. By the same token, it's the same with like the food that you eat. You need to know the food that you're putting in your body. Somebody had posted in, I think it was in Grand Theft World Liberty Radio Telegram chat. Somebody posted a thing about the hidden GMO ingredients. And it was like the little ingredients that they mix in with the packaged food that they don't tell you is GMO. And I was looking at it and I was like, that's everything you buy at the store in those 100 ingredients. Yeah. They're in everything. The maltodextrins in the coffee creamer, the
corn solids, corn syrup solids.
The corn starches, those are in like the fish batter, all that stuff, it's in all of the food. So there is no way to fully escape the GMO foods or GMO dusted foods if you're buying foods from the grocery store. They're all contaminated. So your options are, you can try and grow your food and just eat fresh fruits and vegetables that you are able to produce on your own, or get, meat from somebody who has cattle, they're doing grass-fed cattle or chickens or whatever. You can go that route. It's going to be a little harder, but you're also risking, you're also risking contaminated food as well because of all of the crap that they're putting up in the atmosphere. You can't tell me that stuff isn't coming down in the rain when it rains. When they do their cloud seeding runs through the air, and they're injecting strontium and barium and aluminum into the atmosphere. You can't tell me some of that's not coming down in the rainwater. So I mean, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So it's doing your best to eat healthy, try to avoid as many of the processed foods, the right. plastic foods. And here I am, I ate pizza for supper that, I bought at the store.
Glyphosate is in almost every single thing that has bread.
It is.
Anything that has wheat. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's you're not going to be able to avoid it completely, but, eating the fresh fruits and vegetables are going to be your best option, and eating food that you actually have to cook is going to be your best option. It's going to be the healthiest option. So that's, knowing how to do all that stuff. Some people don't have the space for any of it. So you have to figure out what works for you.
So our friend Girder, I'm watching the chat. Girder says, I would love to hear about some other skills that regular folks can learn to avoid entering the healthcare system.
Okay.
Covered a couple right there. It was like you knew right as the question was being asked.
I'm getting there. Okay, I'm getting there. There's a process. You got to trust the process.
Drink lots of water and get plenty of sleep.
Drink lots of filtered water. I'll put that out there. I have and it's funny because I say that, and I have actually bought some water filters. I bought a thing, the pure water filter, and it's the tank it does a tank of water. It does like a gallon of water. And I bought the filters, and the filters, it's like $16 for a box of 3. And I'm like, God, it's a lot. But go buy $16 worth of bottled water and see how much water that gets you. And $16, that's like 9 months worth of filtered water.
Are those just the charcoal filters? They're not like those ceramic things that you would use like a Berkey or a Pure One?
Right. I think these are the charcoal. I don't think they're charcoal. I don't know. I think they use a semi-permeable membrane. So I actually never looked at what is in that filter, but it does. I know that it filters the water really well because I noticed the difference in the taste of tap water versus the filtered water. And it's funny because I can't even drink, because I've been drinking a lot of tea lately. I can't even drink my tea made with tap water anymore because I can taste the tap water in it. Whereas with the filtered water, you can't even taste. It's tea. You just taste the flavor of the tea. You don't taste anything else. If I do it with the tap water, it's got this really weird twang to it that it's just really off-putting. And so it's almost like it is a chemical taste to it. And it's really off-putting. So
I don't know if the standards have changed recently on spring water, but that stuff, the bottled spring water, because I buy by the gallon because I'm a truck driver. And, I don't have a water filter with me. Actually, I do have a water filter with me. I have a Life Straw with me, and I highly recommend everybody keeping one of those handy. Keep it with your med kit if you have a med kit. And after this show, buy a med kit. Trevor Green was on a couple months ago. I think it was my second or third episode, and he recommended a really good, it's Angel something. But if you go back to that episode, you'll hear Trevor Green recommending a med kit that anybody should just keep on them. But the Life Straw is just something that you should have because you never know whenever there's going to be a situation where you're going to need it. So.
Yeah, and you can use that in any water source too, by the way. It's not just like rain buckets. I mean, you can use that out like in a creek and it will filter the water in real time that you can drink it just straight out of the creek with that life straw. And it's decontaminated, it's filtered, it's clean water. I mean, you can go to a muddy creek, and of course, if you do that often, it's not going to last as long, but you would at least be able to get some water. So yes, absolutely, filtered water. Find something that works for you. I was actually doing some research on filtered water and filter mechanisms, trying to find the most cost-effective water filter. I was actually going to get one to put under my sink for like a whole house filter, and at least just for my kitchen sink, so I can get filtered water out of the tap, and without having to have a separate apparatus sitting on the counter. And I was looking at the different ones, and they all have their pros and cons, but there's people out there that have already done a lot of the research for you. So if you just do your basic internet searches, that information will pop up pretty readily. But I use the pure water filter. To me, it tastes great, and I just fill it up if I see it getting low. The filters usually last they recommend you change it out every 3 months if you use it regularly. If you're putting in like a gallon or 2, 3 a day, it'll last about 3 months. So, and I have the gallon one, so it was a little bit more upfront, but I mean, it tastes just like bottled water to me. And so definitely drinking as much water as you can. I even got a glass thing. It's a container. It's a glass container with a spigot on it, and it's a 2-gallon container. And so I filled it up with tap water, and I stuck it in my refrigerator, so I have cold filtered water if I ever feel like drinking cold water. I normally prefer like the room temperature water because my teeth are sensitive to cold, so I just drink the regular room temperature water. It's fine for me. And but if you ever, like, some people just have to have cold water, and so that works pretty good. So definitely water.
I typically drink distilled and add my own electrolytes. Well, it's not mine. It's that Himalayan pink salt. I just add a crack of that, and I'm all set.
Yeah. So that's, if you want to do the distilled, that works too, but you just got to remember to put in your trace minerals, because it will dehydrate you, or it'll flush out. You won't be replacing those electrolytes that you need. So that's important to remember. And that'll work for some people, especially if they're on their own. If it's just them by themselves, distilled water and just adding the minerals whenever you get around to it is fine.
I've heard the modern person is not really under any risk of not having enough electrolytes just because of how much sodium and yada yada in every bit of our food.
Yeah.
All the preservatives and everything. Yay.
I even got to the point where I stopped using iodized salt. I was like, I think there's iodine in foods, so I mean, I actually don't even think I really need it. Of course, thyroid issues run in my family, so maybe I need to keep, a little bit on hand. You kind of like intermittently use it, but
get the iodine from InfoWarsStar.com.
Alex, who let you in here? Definitely the fruits and vegetables, and if you can get the fresh organic stuff, absolutely go for it. Otherwise, the stuff from the store is fine too, but just using food that you have to make. And that's what I have in my house. And it sucks some days because, like today, I was going, and I get home and then I had a little bit of downtime, like maybe an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of downtime. And then I had to get back on the road and go get my kids. And then we got home and it's dark, and I was like, oh, I got to cook supper, and I don't want to cook supper. So I ran by the store and grabbed a pizza. I'm not setting a good example, and I do apologize for that, but I'm just so damn tired today. If you couldn't tell, I am tired, So
there's not one person out there that doesn't love pizza. And,
pizza is good. You could actually live off of pizza. If you had to, you could. It
It's the
has all
whole.
of. It's got everything. It's got your
It's the
dairy.
food
It's
pyramid.
got your meat. It's got your grain. It's got. It's got it all. It's got your eggs. Whatever. So, trying to eat
Yeah, we're
a good
not being
diet.
paid by Big Pizza, by the
Yeah,
way.
nobody's paying me to push pizza tonight. So there's nothing wrong with pizza. Pizza is good. So yes, I mean, and really, and I say, taking charge of your diet is, is one thing you can do, but it for a lot of people, it's a lot harder than just going and changing their diet. It's a lifelong habit of eating junk food, eating processed food. Um, and again, it's going to come down to educating yourself and preparing yourself, taking that responsibility on and saying, I'm going to learn how to do this stuff. I'm going to learn about the benefits of fresh fruits and vegetables and cooking my food as opposed to buying it already cooked. And it takes discipline and it takes trying, and you're going to fail. You're going to default back to what you already had. But just remember, don't stay there. Get back on the horse and get back onto, doing it again. And eventually it will become second nature, but you're having to unlearn a lot of these habits that were just piled onto you growing up. And I know that, when I was a kid, I remember in the late 80s, I remember there being discussion about how cereal was so damn expensive at the store. I remember adults talking about that. I didn't understand it. I was like, why do you care what the cost of cereal is? And they're like, it costs $5 for a box of cereal at the store. This is outrageous and we can't stand for this. And I'm like, have you? And I'm like, okay. I went to the store the other day and a box of cereal was $7. And I was like, we're right back where we were, 30 years ago. This is ridiculous. So, I mean, having and I think the packaged food actually used to be more nutritious back in the 80s and early 90s as opposed to what it is now. It's mostly sugar. Like today, I went to go find some yogurt at the store. I couldn't find anything that had less than 10 grams of sugar in the container. I did find some Greek yogurt that had 6 grams, so I bought some of that. But it's so hard to find food that isn't just pumped full of sugar and sweeteners and all this crap. So you have to do your research. You have to look at the labels. You have to look and see what's in there. And if you see, they do have a thing where they are labeling GMO stuff that has GMO products in it. They are labeling it, but it's not labeled like you think it is. You have to go to the ingredients, and it will say in the bottom, made from a bioengineered product, is what it says. If it says made from a bioengineered product, that's a GMO product. So like your canned corn, I bought some cream of chicken months and months and months ago when I was making a lot of soups and stuff. And I was just buying the cans and I didn't even think about it. And I went to go make some chicken soup the other day and I was going to get some cream of chicken to put in it. And I grabbed the can and I was like, I wonder. So I looked at the bottom and it said made from a bioengineered product. And I was like, they got me again in the cream of chicken. The cream of chicken is GMO. So you're gonna have to just look and go through everything and make sure it doesn't have that on there.
If you're trying to avoid GMOs, you might as well avoid corn altogether, unless you really.
Not always. I can find cans of like whole kernel corn that doesn't have that bioengineered label on it. I can. We're lucky right now. I think we could still find it. But you got to be aware that a lot of the name brand foods are going to have GMO corn in their products. So like take for instance, around here, we take catfish very, very seriously. And everybody loves a good fried catfish, right? So there's a brand of cornmeal breading for catfish called Louisiana Fish Fry. I know you know what I'm talking about. They sell it at the store and they have all different kinds of flavors and additives and stuff to them that, you have different varieties, right? So I saw a package one day and I was like, it was for spicy. It was it had some extra like cayenne in it. So to give it a little bit of heat to it. I was like, oh, that's going to be so great. Let me get that. So I grabbed that, and then I grabbed a bag of the regular because my husband does not like super spicy food. He's slowly coming around to spicy, but a little bit at a time. So I grabbed some regular and I grabbed some spicy, and I got home with it, and I wasn't thinking about it. And then I got to thinking about the GMO, and I was like, I wonder if my cornmeal is GMO, my catfish batter. So I went to the pantry, I pulled out the box, and sure enough, on the bottom of the spicy one, it said made from a bioengineered product. And I was like, well, what about the other one? So I picked the other one up, the non-spicy one, and it didn't have that on there. So only one of the spicy ones were made with GMO product, and the regular one was not. And I was like, that's just weird, because they both came from the same factory. So it really makes me wonder if both of them really are GMO, or if they really have them separated and they're doing GMO with one and non with the other. I don't know. I don't have that answer. I don't even know how I would find that answer. So now I just stay away from the Louisiana fish fry. Damn it, because that stuff is so good. It is so good.
You think that's crazy? They have been hiding bugs in our food for decades.
Have they?
This whole push is not really anything new. It's just that they did it in secret before.
Well, that would explain the rise in gastrointestinal disorders. It really, really would, because bugs have that compound in them called chitin, and it's what makes up the carapace of the bug's shells and stuff. And it's not digestible by humans. And so if you have that in your food, I imagine that would lead to a lot of gastrointestinal problems. It wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. God, I didn't even.
Yeah, specifically it was shellac.
Would you even know? How would you even know?
Yeah.
Is it even on there? Do they have it included on the label? Is there a specific word that they use?
You need to know the words that they use. Shellac, for instance, is made from beetle shells, I believe, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's something that we've used shellac for all kinds of things, and then they've made us eat it. They've stuck it in our confectionaries. I think it's in Skittles or something like that.
Oh no!
Don't quote me on that. It may or may not be in Skittles, but
last time I had Skittles, I was probably when I was pregnant with my last child, and I just had this huge craving for Skittles. I couldn't get enough Skittles, and so my husband went and bought me like a whole pound bag of Skittles, the big the one that you use for candy dispensers. He bought me a big old bag of Skittles, and I just went to town on it. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. I ate about half of it over time, not in one sitting. Over time, I ate about only half of it. And it took me about a week of just like picking away at it, just eating the Skittles. And I was like, okay, I'm good. And I don't think I have had a single Skittle ever since in the last 12 years, 10 years, something like that. So, yeah. And orange soda. Yeah. I craved orange soda like you wouldn't even believe. I had to go for my glucose tolerance test in the middle of my pregnancy, and just to check for the gestational diabetes. And it's orange flavored soda, and it's got a lot of sugar in it. And most women, it makes them sick to their stomach because it's so sugary. And I drank it, and I was like, that was really good. And I was like, I need orange soda. And so I was like, I got to drink orange soda. And I would go to work. I would stop at the store and grab a 2-liter bottle of orange soda and take it with me and sip on it all day long while I was at work. And I was like, this cannot be healthy.
I figured out one day that orange is the best fake candy flavor of all the fake candy flavors.
Yeah, I do like orange flavor. I do.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. Orange and strawberry. Oh, goodness. I don't even know how they came up with artificial strawberry. How did they even do that? That's just...
It tastes nothing like strawberries.
Doesn't. It really doesn't taste anything like strawberries. Okay, so I think we're getting a little off topic. Things you can do to stay healthy. Okay, so we talked about water, fruits and vegetables, cooking your own food, exercising, I think...
Sunshine.
Sunshine for sure, absolutely. And I'm trying to. One of the ladies in our ladies chat talked about how vitamin D that you get from the sun, or that your body makes from exposure to the sun, the amount of sunlight that you're exposed to um, increases the amount of vitamin D that your body makes, and is actually proportional to the amount of melatonin your body makes at night when it's time to go to sleep. So if you're not getting enough sunlight, your body isn't going to make enough vitamin D and melatonin. And so if you're having trouble sleeping, chances are you're not getting enough sunlight during the day. So, and I don't know if taking in supplemental vitamin D, like a capsule or whatever, I'm going to have to look and see if that has anything to do with your melatonin production, or if it
I'm going to
really
need
is
to
sunlight
hang my
thing.
arm out the door more.
Yeah.
While I drive.
Yeah. Just wave it out there in the sunlight. So, definitely sunshine and exercise. Now, people think that they have to go like full balls to the wall, P90X, insanity, CrossFit, exercise. You don't have to do that. You really don't. Just walking is enough. Walking a mile or two every day or every other day. If you want to go jogging, that's great. But when you exercise really hard, you're making the organs in your body also work hard. And it's not just your muscles. Your whole body has to keep up with what you're doing. And your vital organs work in tandem with each other. They feed off of each other, and they work in concert with each other. And so if you're stressing out your muscles, then your blood vessels are also getting stressed out. Your heart is also getting stressed out. Your lungs are getting stressed out. And if your blood vessels are getting stressed out, you're also stressing out your kidneys. And it is not outside the realm of possibility to go into kidney failure from exercising too hard. So because you're forcing your body to use electrolytes, and you're just pushing everything through your body so hard. So it's better to build up a tolerance to the exercise than it is to just jump straight into things like CrossFit, because I know they go hard and they're really, really intense. And if your body's not ready for it, you're going to just hurt yourself. And not just by like pulling muscles or straining a tendon or whatever, but like your organs, you're putting too much stress on your organs too fast. So you need to build up that tolerance. So just regular walking, and even building up your tolerance to like during the day, because as the summer progresses, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. Well, if you work in an air conditioned office all day long, where it's 70 degrees throughout the day, and then you go outside and you decide I'm gonna start running 5 miles every day, you're gonna kill yourself, or you're going to seriously injure yourself if you do that, because your body, for one, it's not ready for that kind of commitment. It's not ready for that kind of stress. So you want to start off regular, walk a mile, walk half a mile, and then walk half a mile for a week or 2 weeks, and then the next week push a little further and walk a whole mile, and then maybe try and work up your speed a little bit. Try to do it in a shorter amount of time, and then but do it over time, and don't maybe take the whole summer to train yourself to walk 2 miles, or 3 months. Give yourself a timeline, and consistency is also going to be a key. Having someone hold you accountable is going to be helpful. But I think they said it takes 2 months, 3 months to make a habit of doing something repeatedly, it becomes a habit after 3 months. So if you're not seeing results after the first month, don't give up. Just keep going, because your body will get there. So also,
I think,
go ahead.
As somebody who used to ride bikes for a living and carry groups of people up hills and things like that, I'm more on the end of make yourself do it. If you think you can do it and not kill yourself, obviously,
Yeah.
make yourself do it. Just do it, and you'll feel so awesome afterwards.
Yeah. And my exercise, I like to get out in the front yard or in the backyard and mow. I get the lawnmower out and I just go to town with it. And it's my property is slightly inclined, so I have a little bit of an incline when I'm coming back and forth across the yard. And so I am exerting some energy, and I can actually feel my muscles having to contract to push the lawnmower. It's not a self-propelled, it's a basic little $200 Craftsman lawnmower that runs like a champ, by the way. So they're not paying me to say that either. It's a good little lawnmower.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. No,
You've said that a lot tonight.
we've had. I love that little lawnmower. It's really good, and we actually used an electric mower one year, and I'm not going to drop any name brands. We had just a basic electric mower just to see how it worked, and it's fine for yards that just you're maintaining. Now, if you accidentally let your grass get too tall, you're going to need your gas power mower because your electric one's not going to be able to keep up with it. If your grass is longer than 3 inches, it's not going to be able to keep up. You're going to run out of battery. You're going to have like 10 batteries on standby, charged up, ready to go, if your grass is taller than 3 inches. So we abandoned that and went back to the old gas mower, and it works fine. A 5-gallon jug of gasoline will last us probably about a year mowing our yard because it's small. It's like a third of an acre. So definitely getting out and exercising. Yard work is my favorite form of exercise because I'm not only exercising myself, but I'm also like making my yard look really good. So it's like a double benefit there.
Our personal conversation we had the other day, you told me about exercises that you can do while not being out in the open.
Yes. There are exercises you can do that do not require you to leave the room that you're in or change your position. So they're called isometric exercises. And it's basically, they can help with posture. They can help with your core. They can help with your glutes. So you're sitting there and you're like just tensing your muscles, and then for a little bit, and then relax. And then you tense your muscles, and then you relax. So, and you breathe, and you do your breathing exercises while you're doing it. And you can tense your core, like your stomach, your abdomen muscles, and then release it. Or you can just see how long you can hold it, actually, and just remember to breathe. And that will also help if you're not able to get up and run around. It's not going to build like bulk up muscles, but it will help you keep tone for sure. And it can help with posture. So speaking of posture, we had also talked about yoga. There's any number of places you can go to get yoga instruction, and different people have different opinions about yoga, but I will say this. It does help with, it helps with posture. It helped me with my posture. I quit doing it and I started slouching again. So it helps you with not just your muscles and toning your muscles, because you're not going to be building muscle with yoga. You're going to be toning muscles. You're going to be toning fat off of your body, and you'll be left with muscle. And it not only does the toning with your muscles, it teaches you flexibility, physical flexibility. It teaches you relaxation. It teaches you to find your core, your center, and helps you tune out stress. And I can't tell you how helpful that is for someone who works in the medical field to have something like that. And I don't go to yoga anymore regularly. I still actually use some of the things that I learned to help me manage the stress that I'm under. And I do my guided imagery, and I focus on an image, or I clear my mind of all images, all thoughts, and just try to find my center and my breathing again to kind of calm all of these racing thoughts that I have in my head. So yoga is definitely one that I would highly recommend anybody use, because you can the positions that they teach you, they have beginner positions and then they have advanced positions, and you do the one you're most comfortable with and the one you're most able to do, and over time you'll be able to be flexible enough to do the more advanced positions. And so it definitely does help with posture too. I'm not even joking. You will strengthen your back so that you're naturally standing upright, straight, as opposed to just subconsciously hunched over. So exercise, I would definitely look into the different types of exercises that are available and do the one that you are most comfortable with. And I think there are probably some free yoga videos on YouTube, online at different places that you can do them in your house, and you don't even have to leave your house if you didn't want to. I would learn like some basics and then do them outside, on the ground outside. Try to find a level area and do some basic ones outside, or whatever you feel comfortable with, familiar with. And that will help too, because then you're getting your sunshine at the same time too. So definitely exercise. I don't think people put enough emphasis on exercise, and it would definitely help people with their stress levels for sure.
What I do, and Ken, who's been on the show before, we tend to park in the farthest parking spot in the truck stop over whenever we're stopping in the middle of the day, because the truck stop's empty. And we'll park way in the back just so we get somewhat of a walk in order to do our job. It's like, okay, well, now I have to walk to get into this truck stop. So there we go. Get a little walk in.
Yeah, and I seriously, don't underestimate the power of just getting out and being in the fresh air. It definitely helps with stress levels for sure. Also, meditation can help, and I know some people think that meditation is ridiculous and it's useless and whatever. But if it works for you, then it works for you. And some people are less inclined to do it, and that's okay too. If they just want to do the exercise, the physical that's a form of meditation, to be honest, because you're focusing your attention on something other than stressful stuff. So it does have its I think it does have its merits. So other things you can do to be healthy, hanging out with friends that understand you and know what you're about, and not having to keep your guard up and be on the defensive all the time, and looking over your shoulder to see if somebody's thinking different things about you, and finding a group of people that you can connect with and just be yourself with. That's a stress reliever, and being able to talk about things that aren't, no offense, all doom and gloom. But it has its purposes. I will say, talking about the real stuff that's happening in this world, it does serve its purpose. But sometimes if you just need to unwind and just talk to people about, just trivial stuff, or, stuff that you like to do in your free time or whatever, that's also important. You keep that separation of, and not allow yourself to become so overcome with the futility, the seeming futility of it all, So
that's us though. That's this tribe. We're all a bunch of doomers, but we're all very happy doomers. We're positive. We smile.
Yeah.
But that's the media monarchy tribe. So
it really is.
That's how we vibe. That's how it. There's nothing you can do to really stop the monsters that are doing what they're doing, and it shouldn't hurt you. You gotta, if you want to beat them, you gotta make them not break you.
Right. And I think we've probably discussed it before that, the system that's trying to overtake this world is unsustainable. the long and short of it, the ins and outs, it is unsustainable. It's not going to be able to keep going
It's
because
very
it is
anti-human.
something. It is, and it is a system that requires humanity to continue to function, and it is constantly chewing up humanity and spitting it out. Well, eventually, it's going to run out of ammunition. It's going to eventually run out of fuel, especially if everybody decides, I don't want any part of that. I'm going to remove myself from that system that doesn't appreciate me, that doesn't acknowledge me for the value that I have, and I'm going to put my interests and my energies and my endeavors into something that does. And so eventually that system is going to eat itself, and it's going to collapse. And it starts with each and every individual deciding for themselves that they don't want to be part of that system and finding ways that they can help themselves. And what works for one person is not necessarily going to work for another person. But that's the beauty of it. It's the variety. It's that creativity. It's that um, that that flow to things. All of us in this community that we're in, we were all raised different. None of us were raised exactly the same, but we all have managed to find a commonality with each other, a purpose with each other, and a kindred spirit with each other. That we all come from different backgrounds, but we understand the necessity and the beauty of the diversity that comes from being raised from these different backgrounds, because we have different perspectives. We have different ideas pop into our heads. What I think of, you wouldn't necessarily think of, and vice versa. And not that it's a bad thing, but it's actually a very wonderful thing, because you have variety, you have options, you have choices, and you have real choices. Not like, oh, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for Democrat? Or are you going to vote for Republican? That's not a choice, because they're the same thing. Whereas in this community, we can hang out with each other, and we actually have, okay, well, I want to hang out with these people today, and we do have our little subgroups, and that's really cool, because what one group focuses on, the another group doesn't necessarily. And so it's really, really great to be able to say, I've decided that I'm going to try to do this myself, but you also have a community of people that are ready and willing to help and offer insight and offer assistance if they can, or even just simple encouragement and witnessing your situation. And there's something to be said about just being a witness to someone and just watching and acknowledging, yes, you're going through this and you can do it, you can get through it. That's some very powerful stuff, and that's some of the things that we talked about in our ladies chat. So if anybody in the ladies want to come hang out with us, just hit me up, send me a message, email me something, and we can get you in. And but we talk about just supporting each other and offering encouragement. We're not trying to fix each other's problems, but just be there for each other and be a support. But that's the whole media monarchy community. That's the whole alternative media community, by and large. I mean, we have our factions, and some people are kind of getting a little kind of woo-woo with it, but that's just humanity. That's just people, and you find what works for you, and you do that as best you can. And there's no judgment, and as long as it's not infringing on someone else, and it's not harming someone else in the process, I mean, it's anything goes. And that is it's such a wonderful feeling to know that you don't have that that oppression over you. I was having a conversation with a couple of other people in our group, and I was telling them, I said, whenever I have to follow a routine, a schedule, get up at this time, be here at this time, do this thing at this time, especially like with school, it's like I get depressed. I get bogged down. I get anxious, and I feel like nothing is getting better. And it's just routine over and over and over. And it's really hard to break out of that depression when you're stuck in that cycle. So now my life is, it's a little bit less structured, but I have all kinds of stuff to do, and I'm able to do it because I feel a motivation to do it. And I don't have to have someone constantly at me, you got to get this done. You got to get this done. I was like, I know what needs to be done. I'm given the freedom and the time to do it. And I just do it as I can. So I actually have more fulfillment with less structure. And I have a feeling that a lot of people are the same way. You know, you think people were not meant to be stuck in cubicles all day long. That's never what humanity was meant for.
Right. We were just talking about this, that if I'm not busy, I mean, I drive a average, I guess I would say average trucker amount of miles a week, and I manage to get 2 shows out a week usually.
Yeah.
So I try to keep myself as busy as possible as well.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps me grounded in some ways. And then this is that month every year, it feels like, and it's felt like this for at least the last decade, that every March I am just like, get it done month. I've got all kinds of stuff slamming up and stay as busy as possible.
Are you saying
Speaking
there's a cycle to your year? That
Oh yeah,
flow.
this is do stuff season.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you do a lot of stuff music wise. Let's hear about Contumacy a little bit before we close out.
All right. Well, I think I had talked about how I came to the name Contumacy. I was explaining it to a friend of mine, and she's like, I asked her, I said, hey, guess what I named my last album? And she says, what? I said, Contumacy. And my friend is, she was one of those people who was a bookworm, and she was always reading, and she was very well spoken. She was able to word things very well and concisely. Unlike me, I ramble and I, get off topic, but she is able to like put forth an idea and really talk about it, and people understood what she meant. And I told her the word contumacy, and she goes, I like it. That's a good word. And I was like, do you know what it means? She goes, yes, I do. And I was like, because I didn't know what it meant when I saw it. And I had to look it up. And I was like, that word it's just so perfect. It's just that obstinate rebellion. And I was like, that is the word. It's not just disobedience. It's not just a rebellion. It's not just, F you, I won't do what you tell me. It's just this. It's this core in you that says no. It's just an adamant no.
It's that line in the sand.
It is. It's like, we're not going any further. This is it. This is all. And I'm not doing anything else that you tell me to do. And reading up on the word, it looked like it had a little bit of a negative connotation to it, where it's like, it's not necessarily one what you would use to describe a good type of disagreement or refusal. It's got a little bit of a negativity to it, academically speaking. But in all honesty, if I'm being completely honest, I think it perfectly explains, or it perfectly encapsulates, the whole alternative media movement, the people waking up and saying, we have to say no at some point, and this is the word. So the album itself was in process, actually, probably right along the as soon as I finished album 7. As soon as I finished Conspiracies, I was already making more songs, and I was wanting to kind of get back into techno music. I was wanting to get back into the electronic, because I kind of went down a road of funky music there for a little bit, which is fine. And I don't have a problem with it, and I'm still satisfied with how Conspiracies turned out. But
when's your trap album coming out?
That's going to be in a couple of years, because currently working on something which we might touch on that here in a minute. But Contumacy album was being done. I didn't start with the name. I ended with the name. I didn't start with the name. I didn't know exactly what this album was going to look like, what imagery I wanted to convey with this album. So I just started with the music, and I just let the music come into form and be shaped in with my creative flow. And so I started with the songs, and I did not feel so like with I think there was a couple of albums back. I was like right in the middle. I was like, I'm doing an electronic album. I'm doing techno. I'm doing it. And then like right in the middle of it, I was like, let me do a funky song. And it's like it came out of nowhere. And I was like, this is what I got to work with. I can't fight the muse. I can't buck the trend. This is what it has to be. And so I went with that route, and I ended up doing a bunch of funky music. And so with this one, I was like, no, I'm seriously now, I'm going to stick with the techno and electronic. And so I was actually doing really good with that. And I don't think there's a single funky music song on this album at all. But I do want to say that, and I was kind of hesitant to really go into detail about it, but my first experience with psilocybin was on this album, and it was in the very last song, which I put it at the very end because it didn't really sound like the rest of the songs. It really did have a different overall theme. And because at the beginning it starts with a really hard pounding, techno song, and then the second one was, pretty out there. It was, pretty hard pressed too. And then Out of Time, the third track was also, pretty well in the techno sphere. But that last one, it kind of popped up as I was sipping my tea, and it was like, I think I'm going to make a song. And I could see the waves. I went to the bathroom, and I noticed that the curtain on the shower curtain was kind of moving, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's really, and I just kind of stared at it, and I was like, whoa. And then I went back in the living room, and I sat down, and I was like, let's do this, because it's working right now. It's doing its thing. And so I was like, let's start with something ethereal. And so I kind of went with an ethereal sound, and then I just kind of started adding to it. And I was like, let's put some vocals in there. That would be kind of cool, because there's a Vox sound keyboard in the app that I was using. So I was like, that one, and then that one. And if you've heard the song, you'll know what I'm talking about. It was like, I just like kind of out of nowhere, kind of like voices fading in and out, and it was, I called it observance, because when I got done with the song, the image that I had in my head was, I'm standing in the middle of a river, and there's rocks in the river, and like where you can walk across, and I'm standing on the very middlemost boulder or stone, and there's this river rushing around me, and I'm just standing there looking at the river and looking at nature, and I'm seeing it all. And then it's like this bubble appears in front of me, this sphere appears in front of me, and it's got TV screens on it, and it's got like every news channel you could think of, every single one of them, all of them, mainstream, alternative, independent, all of these screens are up there on this sphere, this curved shape, this concave shape that's in front of me. And it's all of the news of what's happening in the world at different times. And they're all, flashing their stories. And this river is just running past me. And then the screens start flying past me, one at a time, one here, one there. And they're going past me. They're going around me. They're not going through me. They're not coming to me. They're just going around. And so it was like I'm observing all things happening at the same time, and it's not affecting me. It's just I'm there and I'm seeing it, I'm witnessing it, and it's all happening. And that's the song. I didn't fix it. I didn't try to make it better for me or anyone else, but it was just happening. And to just know that no matter what, these events are just flowing around us. And the only way these events can bring us down is if we let them consume us. And so we should just observe and then do our thing to make our lives better. And try not to let all of that negativity and that bad news get to us. And that's kind of that's where I left the album on that note. And so, yeah, I got that on when I took some mushrooms.
I was gonna try to pull it up and just play it at the end of the show, but I can't do it. So because I didn't download it beforehand.
Yeah.
It's just in the SoundCloud. But tell people how to find that SoundCloud and how to find you and everything like that, and then we'll shut it down.
All right. Oh, also, I'll send you the link too, so you can add it in the show notes. But all of my
it's there.
My SoundCloud link. Yeah. Okay. So it's SoundCloud.com, and just type in Phytophiliac and you'll see my profile. It's all there, available all streaming platforms, all of my albums. I had to fix one of them; they kind of dropped off, but it'll be back on at the end of the month on the streaming platforms. And I'm on Twitter, That Powers Lady. And that's basically all for now.
Awesome. And she also has links for a t-shirt, which I haven't got mine yet.
I gotta fix it.
It might have been mailed, but
I gotta fix it. There was an issue. I gotta fix it. I'm working on that. It'll be fixed this next week.
Rock and roll. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Always. Anytime.
We'll talk to you later.